Hi there, and a very warm welcome to this week's video, in which we are going to go back to the roots again in talking about textures and texture projections, because I got this question quite a lot and there seems to be some uncertainty about what to do with Octane projections or C4D projections. So this is what we are going to talk about today. So let's get your coffee and let's jump right in. Hey there! Why is this guy on screen again? Because I want to introduce a new section in my videos, which I will call, for the lack of a better term, What's Up, where I go over what I'm currently up to, so what I'm currently working on. And basically what I'm currently working on is some data storage device collection. As you know, I worked on a compact disc in the tutorial we did together in the upper right corner if you're interested, and some mini discs and some other devices. So I collect those and want to hang those up in the bag where Cornelius' artwork is right now. So one interesting aspect about this is that the newest member of this family, the compact cassette, was modeled completely in plasticity. So the question arises whether you want plasticity tutorials on this channel. Think about it, it's just a CAD modeler. Maybe you're into modeling and modeling technical stuff, and it can be quite an advantage in comparison to SDS modeling, where I modeled, for example, the mini-disc width. And let's end this with yet another question. So we just finished our feature series of Octane 2025 Beta, but there's another version, 2026 Alpha, with yet another plethora of features, including, for example, meshlets. The disadvantage here is that, again, this is only available in standalone, so no Blender and C4D plugins are out yet. So think about it. Do you want the tutorial series now in the standalone, or do you want to wait until those features are moved into the plugins and basically have a closer connection to what you work on your daily basis? Let me know in the comments down below. And with this, let's go back to our textures. And welcome to C4D Land. This is the point in time where I tell you that this is a very short video, but the past has told us that this information is actually not reliable. So please check the playhead on your video timeline to get more reliable information. Let's get on with it and create a very rudimentary scene to showcase our textures on. Who needs a good-looking scene when you can deal with simple-looking objects? What do you say? You want both?
Both is good.
Okay, gentlemen, you have spoken, so let's go with our trusted material ball scene. By the way, if you head over to Patreon, this is actually the only scene that is completely free, so you don't even have to become a member. The material ball with gloss function and all the different materials is yours. Though of course, seeing some support is always a nice to have. The link is down in the description below. Alright, so let's create a very standard diffuse material for now, go into the material here, and then bring in our texture. And this is going to be our old trusted UV map, because this is a very nice map to see what we are doing. Now, if the following points sound familiar to you, you are probably an avid viewer of this channel, because I here and there mentioned all of this in other videos. I just wanted to compress it down into one singular video right now. So let's turn on my new favorite node feature, which is snapping, and then go and get the UV map into the diffuse and assign it to the object here. Here we go. I know the next point isn't strictly speaking projection, but I bring it up every time I drag in a texture into Octane. For this, let's toggle the info real quick and concentrate on the VRAM usage. So if you bring in a bitmap and want to use it as a black and white texture, or it's black and white to begin with, you can go to type and set it to float, and this will reduce the VRAM because now only one channel has to be loaded. Of course, you only want to do that if you don't need the color, and the bigger the pixel count, the more safe you have in the VRAM. Alright, let's go back and actually toggle the info and care about projections now next. The next point is a very crucial one when it comes to mapping your textures inside of Octane in C4D. If you don't take anything else away from this video, this is the most important part. So we just applied the texture here with a texture tag to the object or to the hierarchy where the material ball is in. What's really crucial to know here is that as long as we don't explicitly tell Octane to have its own projection, it will always use what Cinema 4D provides as a projection itself. Cinema 4D is set to UVs right now. This means on the object's mesh, it tries to find the UV tag, if we can find it here, and then lay out the mapping according to the UV map of the object. We have some abilities to alter that in the tag by using the offsets and the length. If we move some sliders around, you should be seeing some updates, but there's an update issue right now, so we have to copy the object tag to the mesh itself. And if we do the same thing now, we can see that now the UV map is moving. Also, we can scale it smaller or even bigger if we go above 100%. Now, something very similar can be done with the transform inside of the Octane texture loader. So let's go ahead and create one. Here you can also scale and translate the texture, but also what's not available in the tag, rotate it. The difference is that this will apply to every object the material is assigned to. As you can see, the foot wasn't affected before, but now it's translated, scaled and rotated. Also, what's very important is to know that the transform is actually additive to whatever we do here. So if we pay attention to the upper part here and change that, you can see this still applies on top of the transform we've done here. To show you my next point, let's disconnect the transform so we get back our original UVs. Following is probably the biggest pain point when it comes to understanding the projection settings in Octane as well as in Cinema 4D. Because we have an overlapping feature set here, we have projections in the tag as in Octane's nodes. So let's go with Cinema 4D's cubic projection for now, go to the gizmo and to the scale and scale it down so we encapsulate our ball here. And you can see Octane is displaying that accordingly. But if you look closely, something weird is going on as you have those jagged edges between those different projection angles. So if we do the same in Octane by going to the picture loader and then go to projection and set it to box, which is the same as cubic, and then roughly scale it to the same size, you can see we don't have those jagged edges. And this informs us about the way that the Cinema 4D plugin handles this whole dataset. So if we go to the projection and disconnect it yet again, basically what's happening is that the Octane plugin converts the Cinema 4D projection into UVs and then feeds it to Octane. So basically the same as if I right click on the tag and then generate UVW coordinates here. So what Octane is internally seeing is this projection here. And if you're now wondering why this projection looks better than before, because we're using the base mesh, whereas Octane does the conversion of the UVs at the topmost generator, which in this case is a subdivision surface object, which gives Octane more polygons to work with, and therefore it gets the jagged edges. In other words, since this is a UV map, the seams of any projection have to align with polygon seams of the respective object, as obviously is not as accurate as having procedural projections that are independent from the underlying mesh structure. As you might have noticed, as soon as we plug in the projection tag, we can do whatever we want in our Cinema 4D object tag, it doesn't matter. Everything, of course, but the UV map, because as we established, the UV map is the map that the Octane plugin uses to feed Octane the projection from Cinema 4D. Now the question is, when you don't have dedicated UVs, why rely on Cinema 4D's projection at all? Very good question. If you just rely on the orientation of a map, then it's no problem at all to just use a Octane projection, but in some cases UVs won't hurt. One major reason for this is that Octane has effects that solely rely on UVs. Probably the best example is the texture displacement. So if I add the UV map to the displacement, we get an according displacement on our sphere. But if we now go to our texture projection and get a box projection, for example, you can see the map changes, but the displacement is still according to what we get from Cinema 4D. So the only way to get a box projection with a coherent alignment of the texture and the displacement is going to the Cinema4D tag and set it to box there. Here we go. Now everything lines up again. By the way, I'm not saying this is beautiful, I'm just trying to make a point. Another often used effect that is solely reliant on UVs is anisotropy. I have a tutorial on this topic if you're interested in the upper right corner. So what we have here is a spherical projected UV map. I just squished in a range so you can actually see the anisotropy and not the UV map too much. So the expected behavior if I rotate my UV map is for the anisotropy to follow it, which is not the case as you can see here. So again, we have to resort to UVs and then go to the Cinema4D tag and actually rotate that here. And now as we rotate the UVs with it, you can see the anisotropy is following as expected. And finally, last but not least, it is a short video this time. We have also something that's reliant on UVs that you probably didn't know, and this is normal maps. So again, same setup with a spherical projection in normal maps, and if I rotate this roughly 180 degrees, the normal map all of a sudden looks like it's bumped outwards instead of bumped inwards. And now again, if I switch this to UVs, mesh UVs, and do the same thing with our UV setup, so let's rotate it roughly 180 degrees, and you can see now they still look as if they go inward instead of outward, which is the correct behavior. So as you see, it can be quite beneficial to have UVs if you're working with normal maps. Here we go. This is the exact same normal map, but projected, and this is the one with the UVs, and we get the right behavior there. And this is already it. I hope you liked it, though it isn't a groundbreaking discovery, but just some simple basics. Sometimes I just think basics are really important to know, and this is why I made this video. When it comes to Cinema4D, despite making it a little bit more complicated to understand, having this feature is a real advantage, because we basically can set UVs in real time through the projection that are then translated to Octane, so we don't have to unwrap the objects, but still have the effect that rely on UVs displayed correctly. And with this thought, I want to close up my video. Thank you very much for watching. Let's thank those people who made this video possible. As always, my Patreons. Especially my €50 tier subscribers, Shields Augustinen and Leon Studio TV. Also, of course, a huge thank you for my €15 tier subscribers, Doijim, 4D Thieves, Render King, Alessandro Bonchio, Alessio De Vecchi, Ami Shitrid, Antonio Abibe, BVR, Christian Grajewski, Erbe Plus Akademie, Eva Nilsson Tavares, Joel Mackimer, John Edward, Chris Clemson, Nico Straub, Part 1 of 2, Ralf, Reiko, Reshock, Shamus Johnson, Shiro 2049, Terry Wayne Ranson, and Yassin Rupp. Hello, and again, thank you very much for staying this long. Some of you probably have wondered why I skipped some tutorials in the past couple of weeks. So sometimes I have this issue where I have a bit of brain fog and ideas don't come naturally to me. This is where it's really hard to create those tutorials. So hopefully this goes over soon and I'm back in full strength shortly. I hope you don't mind if I skip one or the other tutorial every now and then. If you want to help me against the algorithm overlords, let's post a framed picture in the comments down below. Other than that, as always, I wish you a fantastic start into next week. If you're watching this later, the best of times ahead. And I say, choose wisely, Cinema4D Projection or Octane Projection. Or there's another option.
Both is good.